15 minutes past 1 p.m. is the 26th day of March 2019. Wow. You blink and almost a quarter of 2019 is almost done. 26 days into the third month. And this is the Executive Lounge, the business thought leadership show that brings you the best minds from all walks of life. In the month of March, we've been celebrating women, and largely because of the coverage of the Emil Short-led commission into the violence at the Ayawaso West Wugon by-election. We have had 2, and by the end of this show today, 3 out of 5 possible and potential females who would have joined us as we celebrate Women's Month. But why not? We might just extend another 2 weeks just to make up for the 5. The women deserve to have their place, and we will not deny them. We started off with Eugenia Techi-Menson, founder of Young Educators Foundation, and they bring you the national debate competition, Young Debaters competition. They also bring you the scripts, Spelling Bee. And guess what? We had Ethel Kofi as well from Adele Consulting, and we had a conversation about women in technology. How do we make sure that we create the right environment? How do we create the momentum to get more and more women into the technology space? How do we ensure that not only are they rising, but there's parity and possibly have more dominance in that space? Our conversation with Eugenia Techi-Menson touched on how we can radicalize our education. You know, a brilliant concept like ensuring that we're teaching and speaking more our mother tongue so that the speed of thought is improved. Because imagine when people speak and think in one language, there's some momentum, generated there. So in our third installment this month, I will be sharing the studio with a woman who 13 years ago, inspired by the lack of professionals in the catering and event space. And this was happening in the Ghanaian community. My guest and her husband founded Planet Ghana, a full-service events and brand communications firm that specializes in planning and producing corporate and social events. Now, in pursuit of their passion, they both said goodbye to very successful marketing communication careers in corporate Britain and corporate Ghana to build Planet Ghana. Having done so 13 years on, my guest is a recipient of multiple international awards and has led teams to plan, design, and produce over 100 events in Ghana and beyond. She's often quoted in industry publications and frequently appears on television and radio in her capacity as an event planning specialist. Her flair for intuitive problem resolution, creativity, and attention to detail, and get your hands dirty approach to management is a personal forte that has won Planet Ghana a fine reputation in the events industry. Today, they can boast of a discerning international client base, including leading global leading global brands. Too many L's in there. And also, notable public figures. Planet Ghana is described by industry professionals as the go-to event planners for sophisticated clients. But today we are exploring the subject matter of entrepreneurship. We're exploring if there's a silver lining. What does that silver lining look like? And to quote Roy Ash, who says, an entrepreneur tends to bite off a little more than he can chew or she can chew, hoping he or she will learn quickly how to chew it. We'll find out how the journey has been, what the learnings can be from this 13-year journey that's still ongoing. From my guest, Gloria Bachman-Yankson of Planet Events. And with that, I say a big welcome to you to the Executive Lounge. Gloria, good to see you. How are you?
Good to see you. I'm just trying to catch my breath here.
Oh, my goodness. So let's start off with this conversation. I know we'll get into the learnings along the way, but will this be an apt quote to attribute to your journey, that an entrepreneur bites off a little more than he or she can chew, hoping that they'll learn quickly how to chew it?
Oh, absolutely. First of all, I have to say I'm excited to be here, a place where I call home.
And we love to have you around.
You have been a part of my entrepreneurship journey from day one. So I'm really, really excited to be here. And yes, we bite off a lot more than we can chew, perhaps our entire being. And we somehow manage to chip a tiny bit at a time, or perhaps, too many tiny bits at a time.
Yeah.
And we make it work.
So let's go back. 13 years ago, you obviously looked around and thought, okay, so why aren't we seeing a lot more players in the space of providing professional event planning? We all see problems around us and see gaps in the market, but I guess the knack of entrepreneurship is about finding the impetus to make the move after discovering there's a gap. For you, what was that propulsion to make it happen, to set it all in motion?
I think that I kind of went through the process that most entrepreneurs go through. And that is, at the beginning, you probably have a problem that you face yourself. And then eventually you're like, you know what, this can be done better. And I have an idea to make it better. So I think that that's where I started from. 2005, I was living with my partner then in Scotland. We had gone to, pursue our master's degrees in the University of Stirling. And we decided to come back home and get married. And I remember looking and not finding a single event professional that was able to, sort of help us put everything together and organize our wedding the way that perhaps I can't say we, because I don't know if he was dreaming the same as I was, but I definitely had my
dream.
You
were clearly driving the conversation.
I definitely had my dream about how I wanted my wedding to look like. But yeah, we didn't find a single event professional who did that. But it didn't quite click until, my poor mom, she had to put together my wedding, our wedding. I need to remember to say our, because it's not mine. But yeah, my poor mom, she was tasked with the responsibility of putting together our wedding. We got married. It was a beautiful wedding. And then we got back. And very soon after that, it sort of clicked, wait a minute. Why don't we start our own event planning and brand communications firm? I mean, prior to that, I had worked at the Hilton. I had worked there as an event hostess. And my job was primarily to just stand at the door and look pretty and just, show people their seats and things like that. But you
didn't have to do much to do that, right? You just show up for work and you're ready to go.
Yeah, just show up for work and look pretty and smile, And I had always been fascinated by how, the ballroom on a normal day was nothing, and it was transformed into this amazing, spectacular events, weekend in, weekend out. And I think that it was all of these things were just leading us into where we wanted to perhaps spend the majority of our lives. But yeah, fast forward. So 2006, we decided that, you know what? We are going to do this. And when you have an idea and you can't stop thinking about it, you can't stop talking about it, and you're always going on and on about it. I mean, I was working at Morgan Stanley at the time in marketing communications, nothing about event planning. And it was a great place to work, and I loved my colleagues, but I just could not stop talking and thinking about this event planning business that we wanted to start. I bought books and books and books. My shelves were filled up in no time on books in event planning, until eventually I remember that in 2000 and is it 2008? Okay. It's a long time ago. I can't remember properly if it was 2008 or 2009. I remember I had been sent on job training in Kenya for 3 months, and after that it was December, and we came back to Ghana from Kenya. Kenya is very similar to Accra. I mean,
That's right.
Well, Nairobi.
Nairobi, yeah.
Very similar to Accra. And I remember coming back and I was like, dang, do we have to go back to this snow, like this terrible cold back where we came from? Because I had gotten really used to, Nairobi. And so came back to Accra, and I chanced upon an advertisement in the papers. They were looking for Director of Marketing and Corporate Communications. And I thought, you know what? This looks like something I'd love to do, because at that time I had been working in marketing for 4 years. So I thought, this looks like something that's interesting. And I remember showing to my brother, and he was like, what do you? Like in Ghana, people don't hire 20-something-year-olds to be director of corporate communications. It doesn't happen. They're looking for some elderly person. But I think I'm a bit of a daredevil, because I love a challenge. When somebody says, I doubt that you can do that, it just pushes me to want to show to myself that I can do this. So when
you jumped in.
Did the interview, jumped in. And they said, when can you start? I worked in that business for close to 2 years, but I still could not stop. And I think the thing about entrepreneurship is that you can't cage someone who wants to be an entrepreneur inside of an employee role.
Okay.
I mean, we were doing so well in the corporate communications marketing department and all of that, but I was so unhappy. I would go to work and I would still be so unhappy. This is not where I want to be. And so one day, the night before, I said to my husband, you know what? We've been talking about starting our own business for God knows how long. This job has catapulted us and brought us back home to where we've always wanted to be. I think this is the time. And he says, are you sure? Do you know what you're doing? I mean, we were living in their house. I was driving their car. We didn't have any backup plan. We didn't have any money saved. And I said, yeah, my instinct tells me that this is it. So go in, hand in my resignation, and that was it. Planet Ghana was officially.
So you basically are in a plane flying at high altitude, and then you jumped out without a parachute and built one on your way down.
And I tell you, I crashed.
You did?
I crashed.
We're going to learn about that. And I think for me, the lessons are very important. But let's just do a quick, learning about. You just mentioned that, look, you lived in the house that the business provided. You drove the car the business provided. So there was a certain level of comfort and guarantee in the corporate job that you had. Now, I don't know. Is it a one-size-fits-all? Must anyone listening to you right now think that, okay, I'm passionate about doing something, maybe I should just jump? Last week I had Ethel Kofi in this seat you're in now, and she said something quite interesting, that we should look at doing some of these things on the side. So grow a side hustle. Don't let it compete with the time that you're supposed to give to your employer. So late nights and weekends, try and build that side hustle. Maybe over a year, and decide that, okay, I can do this, and then you go full hog. In your case, you had been eating up inside by this passion and desire to do this, and you were like, you know what, that's it. I'm resigning. I'm going to give it 110%, and you did.
So I skipped the part of the story. And the part of the story I skipped was my husband. Obviously, we were living together in Scotland at the time. When I said to him that, you know what, I got this job. I think it's time to come back to Ghana and all of that. He's like, But eventually he did. And when he came back, he, in December of 2009, registered our business.
Right.
And he started to put together, to plan all that we had been talking about. And he pretty much laid down the paperwork. And listen, when I was working in that job as Director of Marketing and Corporate Affairs, I did not have a life. I was working my 9 to 5, which we all know is never a 9 to 5 if you're in a managerial position. You're there till 8 p.m. sometimes.
It's like a 9 to 9.
You're working weekends
you're working
sometimes.
24 hours a day.
Absolutely. I did not have a life. I was working that job and I was working this side hustle any hour I could get and building this to the point where perhaps I could say, you know what, I think it's time. So
Okay.
it didn't just, out of the blue, nothing, just say, okay, we're starting this. It took about a couple of years doing this as a side hustle, working 3 jobs, my 9 to 5 or 9 to 9, my side hustle, and then, of course, my work as a mother.
Yeah. Now, I was just about to jump into that conversation because, you see, the early stages of every marriage, might be different for different people, but you still have a bit of adjustment to do, building that nest. For some people, very early on, you start a family as well. How do you go on an entrepreneurial journey at high speed and juggle these 3 elements, your 9 to 5, your side hustle, and then the family?
Do you want the simple answer or the long answer?
Give me the midway with the hardcore truths in there. I think there's a lot of lessons that we can learn from that.
So the simple answer is that I am crazy. That's the simple answer.
So you have to be maniacally passionate about what you're doing.
Seriously, I have been crazy the entire journey since I started working at 18. I have taken decisions that everybody heard of and went, are you crazy? How does that make sense? And I remember that I quit my job and I didn't really tell anyone because I knew what they were going to say. This is stupid, don't do it. And so I didn't quite tell anyone. But then when I quit and I started to tell people, are you crazy? How do you quit such a good job, a well-paying job with so many benefits, and decide to focus on your business, which, by the way, doesn't have any clients and doesn't have any capital and doesn't have any savings? But yeah, that's a simple answer. That if you really want something and you cannot stop talking about it and dreaming about it, and you realize that this is where your heart is, sometimes you have to take crazy decisions because you're the only one who understands your journey and your dream and what you want to achieve. And I know that I'm sitting here and saying that, and somebody's somewhere saying, oh, this girl's crazy. And I am glad you're thinking that. Because if you're not crazy, you cannot run a business here in Ghana. I'm telling you, it is tough. And sometimes it doesn't make any sense. But you know what? I am tired and I'm crazy and I am fulfilled.
Wow, tired, crazy, and fulfilled. So 13 years on, you keep going. But I'm hearing in this story that beyond being, and I prefer to call it daring, there's a lot of conviction. In spite of what people would say, you seem to have decided that this is what I want to follow, and you keep going after that. How has your own environment, be it from home, school, and the people you've interacted with, how did that shape that ability to own your own thoughts and be convinced that this is what I'm going to do? If I fall flat on my face, it's my deal. I'll start all over again. Yeah.
I think I've been an entrepreneur longer than I've probably called myself an entrepreneur. I remember when I was in high school, I was making things and selling things. I watched my dad wake up every morning and work his ass off to make his business work. I watched my mom wake up every morning and make her business work. So I think it's pretty much because I was born into a family of entrepreneurs.
That's
I have
another
5 siblings.
entrepreneur who refers to a family of entrepreneurs. Okay, all right.
I have 5 siblings, and 4 of them are entrepreneurs. So, I think it was perhaps a bit of that in my subconscious, saying that if you want to build, what shall I say? The best way to control your success is just to be in charge of it yourself.
Okay.
And I learned that and I saw that from a very, very young age. When we were living in Scotland, I was braiding people's hair, you know, on when it was cold and wintry, and you know, we were at home. I was like, okay, what else can I do to support? Because I was working a part-time job because I went to study, and I couldn't do a full-time job at the time.
That's right.
I was braiding people's hair and getting paid for it. So I think that I have been an entrepreneur much longer than perhaps I admit. And that's why maybe I've never been comfortable sitting in a space, you know, doing this for somebody else. Although I must say that perhaps also gave me some discipline and some direction as well as a business owner. When you work for somebody else, I think that it helps. You learn a lot of things.
What are some of the things that you think you took away from that exposure and implemented in your own?
For one, when I started my job as Director of Marketing and Corporate Affairs, I was living in Dansaman and the office was at Coca-Cola, roundabout. And I had to leave home at 5 a.m. in the morning to be able to get there on time, because at the time, Spintex was just, it was just... Yeah.
It was one of those
flight.
Forget it. Or you live close by.
Forget it. So I had to leave home at 5 a.m. Then, when my son was 6 months.
Wow.
And get to work for 8 a.m. And guess what? When we closed at 5 p.m., there was no point in leaving at 5 p.m. from Dansaman.
Because you'd still be in traffic.
Because you would sit in traffic till 8 p.m. So I would sit in the office till 8 p.m., sometimes 9 p.m., when all of the traffic had died down. And then I would leave. But you see how that prepared me for this entrepreneurship journey now. If I was that disciplined at the time working for somebody else, then of course it makes every sense to be disciplined doing this for myself. The last week or so, I have slept an average of 4 hours every day, and it's not something that I recommend. It's not. I'm not saying don't sleep,
but it is what it is.
It is what it
is. Someone's got to do it. You signed up for it.
I did, and I have to make it work because there's no plan B. Right. I have so many people who have invested in me, not financially, but they have invested their hopes and their dreams inside of me, looking at me as, oh, I see her and she's made it work and perhaps I can too. And so I cannot fail these people. I cannot fail myself.
Yeah.
I cannot fail my clients. So, yeah, that discipline. You need, some of the things, I look back now and on hindsight, I see that some of the things perhaps I cried about in my previous job were good reason. You know, when I felt like, well, why are they pushing me so hard? I feel like I am doing my absolute best. And at that time, they made me understand, yeah, you're doing your absolute best, and it looks like you're being very, very successful for this business, but it's not enough.
We need some more.
That has trained me now. So I never get complacent. I never think that I have arrived. I never think that I have achieved anything that is, of course, celebrate your little victories. But I never see myself as in the position that I am a leader now and nobody can, overtake me. And so every day I am looking for opportunities to be more innovative, to bring out new ideas, to make my business stand out in what now is a saturated market. To make us different, to make our clients love us and keep coming back to us. Planet Ghana has been built on sweat and pain and tears, and there's no way when you do that. There's no way you can crash when you've done that. Yeah. Because you have established a firm foundation now.
But in building that foundation,
to do is to keep building and building and building until you get to the Burj Al whatever.
Right. So, but Burj Al Planet, but as you admitted yourself that you did crash somewhere along the line.
I did.
How was that crash? How did you pick yourself up?
Listen, in the early days, when I handed in that resignation and I came home and I realized that, oh, dang, we have nothing. We literally have nothing. Our business was built on, I would say, one CD and Wi-Fi.
One CD and Wi-Fi. Okay.
Because really, we had nothing at all. And we came home and then we expected that, you know, we're going to put stuff out there. Social media wasn't really a thing at the time. Facebook, we started on Facebook sharing our story, sharing what we were doing, and we were expecting that by doing that the business would happen. It didn't. The first few months I cried. I mean, I still cry sometimes because I still question why we're putting ourselves through this sometimes. But in the first few months, I remember a night where we didn't even have dinner. We ate gari soakings with no milk.
Wow.
Because it wasn't because we didn't have it.
At least you had sugar in it, right?
Because we couldn't afford it.
You had sugar?
We had sugar.
Okay, that's not bad.
I remember one night where that happened. I would never forget. And I just sat, and in all of the tears, I asked my husband, perhaps we made a big mistake. Maybe this was all a bad idea. And I remember that we spoke to one of our friends, and we were trying to convince him to invest in our business. We were asking for, I think it was 10,000 Ghana cedis for like 50% of our business.
Wow.
And I look back now, I'm like, what the? I'm on radio.
Wow.
What were you doing?
But so you didn't, you clearly didn't get it.
He said no.
Okay.
He said, no, I don't think that I want
Some
to
no's are
invest.
blessings, huh?
Absolutely, because if that had gone through, we would have made ourselves a big disservice.
That was like an Esau moment.
We were sitting on a gold mine.
Yeah.
We just were digging and hadn't reached the diamond yet, but we were so close.
And you were begging for bronze.
And we were begging for coins.
You know what? This is an exciting conversation. It's 41 minutes past 1 on the Executive Lounge on your superstation, Joy 99.7 FM. You can join the conversation by sending us your thoughts and questions via WhatsApp at 0244340437. You can also tweet at me at GHRainmaker or at Joy997, hashtag Executive Lounge. Or just send your comments on our Facebook Live page where you can catch this conversation live. And some comments already coming through. Says, Crazy Gloria Backman Jackson has come far. And I remember those days. Charlie, the hustle has always been real for a Ghanaian entrepreneur. Congratulations, Planet. We remember. And this is from Kwabena Puku. He is quite crazy himself.
Oh, yeah.
But you know, you talked about how you had... tried to tell your story on Facebook in the beginning, and it didn't seem to be the place to tell your story then. How have you since then leveraged technology?
So, I think that all through our business journey, I think the social media has been a big thing for us. Obviously, we couldn't afford traditional marketing in any sense, so social media has been it, and it was the point where I realized that your business isn't about you. It's not about what people can do for you. It's about what you can do for other people. I think that when I got that realization is when we started to put out, I mean, yes, okay, I see you don't have any money and you're building this and you're passionate about it, but how is it helping me? And so we got out of that selfish mindset, and I think it's a mindset shift and it's a perspective shift, and it's wherever you place yourself mentally is where you end up being. We realized that, wait, people weren't used to event planners servicing individuals and small businesses. If you were planning your wedding, you would go to your aunt, or you would go to, you know, your mom, or that's
or my
what
friend,
people
my
were
roommate
used
from
to.
school. Say, hey, I need someone to help me do this.
And Uncle Bob will take the photos, and Auntie Felicia will cook.
We'll be the maitre d', and yeah, there you go.
You know, people aren't used to this. So we are selling a very educated service to a non-educated audience. They don't understand what we are doing. It was when we got that realization that we thought, oh, we need to tell people more about what we are doing and the benefits that we are bringing to their lives, to their businesses, to the people that they love. That's when that switched.
Right.
When we started, putting together content for our ideal clients, this is the person I want to work with. What are they thinking? What are their pain points? How can we alleviate that stress that perhaps you're going through right now? And how do we articulate that so that they understand that, oh, if this person can take away all of this wahala, then I'm willing to pay them so much to do it.
Right.
That's when we started to attract the people that we wanted to work with.
Interesting. So if there's somebody thinking about going into their own, start a business on their own, would you say that you're repackaging and putting your story out on social media? And I mean, there's lots of platforms today where people can either put their information, so there's Facebook, there's Twitter, there's Instagram, Pinterest, you name it. All of these spaces are available. Does every story deserve to be sold on social media? Do you think that we could do that?
I think it depends. I mean, if you're not comfortable sharing some parts of your journey, you don't have to. There are people, near 10,000 people who follow my personal Instagram page and think that they know me in and out, but they only know 5% about me. You can put out information that you want to put out in a way where you connect with people, where they feel like they know you, because the only way people are going to buy from you is when they know you, when they like you, and when they trust you. And when somebody can identify with whatever you are communicating, that's the only way that you can get the attention. And that's the only way that eventually you will be able to meet them on that same ledge where perhaps, no, you don't fall, I catch you.
Yeah.
Right?
Wonderful. So Alan Besor says it is true. The hustle is real. The startup community are jumping in. This Deborah Pong sends us a message on Facebook and says, "I just love how real she is." And Mabel Simpson says, "Gloria is an inspiration. Keep it up." And so the questions are still coming through. If you want to call us, you can call us on 0302216541 or 0244340437. Now, there's a key point that I wanted to explore. We clearly know that you were daring, you had conviction, but you made mention of something which I call investment. You started buying quite a lot of books. Would you limit the investment you made into growing this business to just buying books?
No. I mean, 13 years down the line, I still invest in online courses. I still fly out of Ghana once a year to go learn from somebody else who I feel knows a bit more than I do, because I never put myself in the position where I feel like I know too much or I know enough. You can never know enough. There is so much more to the world than this little tiny space that we're in. And so, no. Yes, I do still buy books. I invest about, I would say, 5% of my wages every month into buying some book on entrepreneurship or event planning or business. And I remember in 2016, I wanted to sign up for this course with one of the world's most celebrated event designers, Preston Bailey. And we worked out the cost of me traveling to Miami, Florida, and me staying at this 5-star hotel and being a part of this class. And we were like, yeah, that's a lot of money to spend.
On one course, huh?
On one course for 3 days. But these are some of the crazy decisions that you have to make. You have to invest in yourself. Particularly now, when, everybody's suffering from shiny object syndrome, where our attention span is so small, you have to have something that is different from everyone else. Otherwise, you get lost in the sea of all of these other people, don't call me in their business on social media. You're going to get lost. So absolutely, invest in yourself, invest in your business, invest in people, a team that you trust, because I have come to understand that for the most part of our business, it was my husband and myself. We run a very lean organization. And I have always believed that you can do big things even with a small team, but
Right.
you realize that at some point you have to invest in other people to physically be there doing other things, because otherwise there's so many hats that you have to wear, and your head is never big enough as an entrepreneur to wear all of these hats. So
Yeah.
you need someone to wear a couple for you, to be able to. So you have to invest in other people.
Yeah.
You have to invest in your business. You have to invest in yourself. You have to invest in knowledge.
Okay. Now, let's go back to a point you raised earlier. And you said that for you, when the pin dropped, was realizing that you were selling a service to people who were not...
An educated service to a non-educated audience.
Right. So they weren't clued up in the need to hire a professional to do specific things. So in terms of exposure and how much they knew about event planning, it was very limited. How do you even venture into a space knowing fully well that the market wasn't ready for you? How should someone who has maybe an idea that may be a little bit ahead of our time, mind you, we didn't think we would have phones where we did touch, on there, but some guy, crazy as he was, thought it was possible. How do you create that immediate need for people to jump on something that they didn't think they needed in the first place?
I read something somewhere. I don't remember if it was Ford, but some car manufacturer wrote something about, and I really can't remember who, but they wrote something about where you could be there. If he had sat there thinking that everybody needed faster horses, he never would have launched his car.
I think it was Ford.
It was
Henry
Ford, right?
Yeah.
You have to think ahead. And even now, I am still thinking ahead. This is a problem. People are wanting to do this. There's so many people who I am sure in 2005 were just like me, looking to come back to Ghana, living outside of Ghana, looking to come back and get married here. And we're looking for somebody to help them. And that's the majority of our client base now, the non-resident Ghanaian. So I think it's just having the conviction that this idea, this problem that I have identified, and this solution that I have come up with to be able to, solve this problem is going to work, and market it in such a way that people understand that this is a benefit to them. I think that's it.
Wow. Learning lots, and comments are still coming through. I'm glad you explained that bit about, a niche educated service to a market that's not necessarily educated in that regard. Now, let's go back to the support. Okay. Not everyone's going to start a business with their husband. But, if there's a young man or a young woman listening to us who want to follow their own passion, in the absence of a partner, a life partner, how would you advise that they go about finding support to somebody to be there when during what a friend will call the ignorant times, where you're really struggling and don't know where to turn?
Believes in you.
Yeah.
I think that I have been very lucky. I have a very supportive partner, and a lot of the times I look at him and he motivates me and keeps me going, and my son as well. But I think that what I will say to someone who doesn't have that, and I feel like we always have that one person in our network though. We always have that one person in our circle who we can go to and speak to. But if you don't, well, the internet has made it so much easier for you to reach out to someone and share your idea. Maybe not share your business idea because you don't want to put it out there until you're ready. But there is always someone. I, even at this point, still send direct messages on Instagram to people who I feel have value to add to me and my business. People who I have never even met.
But how do you evaluate their suitability?
Because you see what they are doing, and you see I'm never going to ask specific advice on certain things from somebody who has not proven that they have gone through the same challenge and been able to make something out of that challenge to build themselves. I ask very specific questions. So perhaps if I need advice about creating content for my business, I'm going to ask somebody who's a content creator who has visible success in that area. It doesn't always have to be someone who specifically is in your business. There's so many people out there. If I'm looking for advice on media, perhaps I should go to Insura. I should not go to somebody who's not showing any experience in that play field at all.
So advice, I mean, in terms of advice...
You don't have a partner, you don't have any friends, and I believe that everyone has that one person. But if you really don't, the internet has made it so much easier for you to connect to a large audience. People who are willing to listen to your story and listen. Even if they cannot offer specific solutions to what you're questioning, there is always something to learn from what somebody else says. You can take it or not take it. You be discerned. You use, research and then make a decision.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Well, we're getting ready to wrap up. And so what do you do to relax, if ever?
My business is my life, and it's sad. I do try. I think that every business owner goes through those 3 stages. At the beginning, you just want business. You just want to be busy and you just want to work for everyone. And then in the middle somewhere, you want the flexibility to choose who you want to work with. And then the 3rd stage is where now I'm going to be very, very selective with who I work with. And perhaps if I was doing 30 events in my first year, I just want to do 10 now, which is where I am. And so when you get to that point, and then that's when you start to think about self-care, and that's when you start to think, okay, I am growing and I need to relax so I don't grow any faster than I already am.
Right.
So I do spend a lot of time with my son. I cook. People see me cook and they're like, how do you even find the time? I actually find that very relaxing. And it's just the small things, the little wins, going out to the cinema to watch a movie together as a family, things like that.
Do you mentor other people? I mean, you do speak quite often, but how important is that for you?
I do. It is so important for me because when I started my business, I did not have a mentor in the sense in which I would have loved to have it. I did not have anyone to guide me who had taken the same journey that I have now taken. So 3 years ago, I discovered a new passion for teaching and mentoring other aspiring event professionals via my new venture, which is called Planners Hub. And through that, I have mentored now close to 300 people who are running very successful businesses which are similar to ours. I think that there's always enough space for all of us to win. And therefore, it's just looking back and seeing that I didn't have that. And I'm so passionate about being able to give other people the opportunity to listen to someone who's been through the same journey. Okay,
well, we've just come to the end of our chat.
It feels like I've been here 5 minutes.
Yeah, good conversations run very quickly. But I would like to say a big thank you for making time to join us on the Executive Lounge.
Thank you so much, Insura.
As we celebrate Women's Month, but more importantly, celebrating entrepreneurship. And for me, 5 things I'm taking away from this conversation. Number 1, that your environment is important. It will teach you lots of things. If not the way to go, it will teach you how not to approach things. Number 2 is that you must have conviction, that, thoroughly go through your own thought process. But once you settle, you must be very well settled in there, and you should be daring. Gloria calls it crazy. I like daring. Final, 2 more to go. And remember that seed time will always lead to harvest. So, of course, every day, if your job currently pushes you plenty, remember that it pays off when you're working for yourself. And finally, please don't let go of the passion that you develop.
Don't ever.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And the news is up next. I will leave you with a song dedicated to hard work. This is Wish Me Well by Kwame Eugene. Like I always say, go forward, make rain. Shalom. We'll be back next week with more on the Executive Lounge. Drive Time is up next after the news with Lexisville.
My God be my provider. He be my protector. So I go higher.